Hey everyone, it's Greg with Spotted Tongue Woodworking, and I'm building another workbench.
Oh,
And if you are following the channel, you'll say, Greg, hey, you just built a workbench. And I did. I built a $50 Ultimate Workbench out of 1/2 inch OSB for my real shop, and now I am building a smaller workbench for my garage workshop. And this bench is going to be a little bit more refined and a little bit more precise than the bench that I made. This bench is a little bit nicer, going with 1/2 inch white wood or sanded plywood from Home Depot, so just a step up above from the 1/2 inch OSB. Alright, so this came out great. Yeah, I like that little bit of spalting in there. You know, it's just a nice little detail that I appreciate. Wasn't too crazy about how these countersinks were drilled in, so I'll have to go back and do that manually. I was hoping they would go all the way to the bottom, but they only got to 1/4 inch wide. So the bottom piece, the other side of the bottom piece has the counter screws, just so I know where I can set all my blocks. So we'll move on to the next piece where we'll do some legs that'll have some accessories and some other ideas for another project that I want to do. If you haven't noticed, a very specific design parameter for this bench is that everything is split up into 4x4 sheets. So everything fits in a 4x4 sheet. So we got 2 full sheets of plywood. So that is 4x4
so
sheets.
the problem being, I think I hit the bit setter with the dust boot, and that's what knocked it off course. So that's on me for forgetting to do that. So that's frustrating, but we'll be okay. So we hit the bit setter, that threw off my X axis, so I stopped the file, reinitialized the machine, reset everything, and we're going to run the file. I took out the step for the dog holes, so we're going to start with the contour cut. We're going to cut out, go from scratch again. You know, this will just run in air for a little bit. That's fine, and then we'll cut out all the other pieces as well. You know, it's a bit of a waste, but I don't know how else you would do it. Oh, all right. So now to problem number 2 is I changed the file to move everything down because I didn't like how close that was, but obviously I can't run the file again, so I got to figure that out. All right, I was able to restore a previous version of this file, so hopefully we're back on track. So we'll just run on air for a little bit. That's fine, and it's just how it's gonna be. Oh well. Get that out of the way. That's the one big downside that I say of doing a full sheet, is that you can't keep the bit setter in place. We'll just stick this on the inside, and you'll never see it. You'll never know. So that's all right. Because the reality is with this file is that I'm going to run this exact file 3 times. So this first time, I guess I got everything problem solved, and the next 2 times should go without a hitch. This was supposed to be the 60-degree V-bit. I wasn't happy with how the 60-degree was coming out, so I put the 90 in there with it still as the 60. I think that's better, maybe a little bit too deep. What color did you get? You got orange? Yeah. All right, move to orange.
That's what I think is one of the best parts of a CNC, is that to an extent it will work when you're not working. So that gave me time for a few rounds of Candyland while I was home. Of course, one thing that the CNC can't do is actually assemble all the pieces once they're cut out. So we got to cut everything out, round over all these edges, because like I said, this is going to be a little bit more of a refined concept than the other bench I made. And then we're just going to cut out my spacers that we're going to use to space the top and create the structure for the legs. I keep talking about this other workbench, and well, actually there it is. And why I keep talking about it is because this was the original design for this workbench, where the original version 1, I'm currently working on, I guess we'll call it version 2. Version 1 was very down and dirty, and version 2 is a little bit more refined, a little more technical, as you can see with all those dog holes and precision machined parts that are going to fit together. Of course, it's not too refined having the glue and the blocking, but it is what it is. Having these holes, figuring out that counter screwing really did help with the assembly process, really put it all together and keep everything lined up and clean. I will admit, having a workbench to build a workbench made my life a lot easier, and actually having this version of the workbench in this other shop has been a huge help to me with building and assembling and having things away from the table saw. When we're going to put together the top, like I said, the bottom of the bottom piece also had the countersunk screw spots as well as the top, so everything lined up. And as you can see, the spacing for this is a little bit higher because I realized I wanted to have a little bit more room to have tools in there without scratching and catching my hands on the top itself. And there's actually another reason for that, which I'll show later. I think to be one of the greatest advantages of this design, which I guess could also be one of the biggest disadvantages, is the weight, or rather the lack of. It's a very lightweight bench, it's very strong for what it is, and it makes it very easy to maneuver and to transport. This is going to be more of a dedicated shop stand, but the same principles apply where I wanted something that I can move around and disassemble and have where needed as needed. If you didn't quite catch what I was doing, I am attaching the top to the bottom. And in the previous bench, I missed that part. In this part, I was able to intentionally have my dog holes placed so that I can screw through the dog holes down through the bottom into the legs. And this is one of the reasons why I needed to have a taller base, is for figuring out how to actually mount the table saw to the end of the table. It turns out I couldn't easily mount the table saw to the early table because the heights didn't quite match up. Having the height up closer to that 4.5-inch height allowed me to have the top nearly precisely level with the top of the table saw. Having that extra working surface has made a huge difference in trying to rip, in just with working with this table saw, ripping panels and all that. And there it is. That is the workbench. Truthfully, I don't like it as much as version 1. It just doesn't have that same rugged durability, or at least that look of rugged durability to it. I haven't had a chance to try out all of the accessories. I just kind of made things that I thought looked cool and could be useful. So we'll see if I actually end up using a lot of the pieces that I made. And if you made it this far, please let me know in the comments below, version 1 or version 2 of the bench. Which is your favorite? This was Greg with Spotted Tongue Woodworking. Have a great day.